Hello? Yeah, cool. So yeah, good morning, everyone. I hope you have your coffee and you are ready for a new talk today. So I hope you enjoy the conference. So now is my turn. I am not used to conferences. I am very out of my comfort zone, but let's try it. So yeah, this talk is about microservices, modules, modular, monolithics, things like that. I hope you get something for your real job. So yeah, let's go. So first of all, I want to say thank you to many people. Thank you to the conference for inviting me. I want also to say thank you to my company to pay my expenses here and travel around Czech Republic because my company, Magnolia, has an office here in Czech Republic. The city is Kromierzyce. I think I have told right, more or less. It's close to Brno. I have been there with my colleagues, and now I am here to talk a bit about what we have done. So this is about me. The more important thing that you need to know is that I don't know if I am getting old or whatever. I am against complexity a lot. I refuse to add anything that is new if there is not a good reason for that. So about that complexity, something that I like is remove code. So I enjoy a lot with that. And something interesting is that, something fun is that, for example, what can happen is if I have a very inspired night with my wife, and she asks me, "Whoa, what happened? How many lines of code have you deleted?" So you can see how do I enjoy the remove of the complexity. So yeah, I am going to give you a bit of context. In my company, Magnolia, we have a big monolithic application. It's a very old Tomcat application, but there we have a lot of modules, a lot of things, a lot of integrations. And there are some coupling there that we need to remove and we need to make some changes. But what we have is a product that our clients are using. And we have now 3 different models. We have an on-premise, they install the thing. We have a PaaS solution that more or less we helped them to put in some cloud and managed it. And now we are working in a SaaS, a real SaaS product, because now we need an instance each time that you want to work with Magnolia. So it's not very SaaS because you need some kind of multi-tenants and things like that. So yeah, of course, I am part of the labs team, and we have experimented how we can do that. So we ask, what do we want for the new Magnolia SaaS? And yeah, there are a lot of things in the list. They have something new, something nice. They want to remove the coupling. They want multi-tenants. But more or less what they want is what we have. We have an application with modules, and our clients can extend that modules or do whatever they want with that modules. So yeah, we put together all the labs team, and we try to put something. So the first thing that comes always is, okay, let's do microservices. So microservices is, for me, a complexity, and you need a good reason for do that. So just say microservices is something that we want is not right. So what we want is a new modular application. We don't want microservices. So microservices is the how, one of the how ways of do that. So instead of microservice, we want a nice modular way or a nice modular application that maybe we can have microservices there or maybe not, something that we will see. So this talk is about Java standards, because something that we have learned is that using standards always is good. If you before we had Jakarta, Java EE6 or something like that, there are some standards there and we use them. So this is we have used another standard and other things that maybe, but the good thing is that standards usually are compatible, and in the future, you can use them or migrate if needed, more or less easy. So I'm going to explain how did we manage this modularity. There is a way that we have tested that is working, but for you guys, maybe it's not good. I will try to explain, and I hope you get something there. I will give more information, and this talk is not about specific libraries or frameworks or tooling, or because we try to have standard. I have some example with some Quarkus code, but at the end, if you have a microservice, you need to deploy anyway. But you will see that instead of Quarkus, you can use any framework, and the modules will work anyway. And yeah, not about how do you implement the things or whatever, or about queues, events, or anything like that. So yeah. So let's go. So I have created this example. We have some car application, some Quarkus application that has an endpoint that you get data from cars or whatever. And what we are going to do, we are going to create a new module. This module is a car value estimator. So you pass some data of the car, and you get more or less the estimation of the value of that car. So maybe that car has, well, let's see. The code is in GitHub. I will give you the link at the end. So the more important thing is domain interfaces. So if you want to bring something for this talk, is this. So it's very important that you define some kind of contract of what your module is doing. So in this case, it's very simple. It's just one interface. But maybe your module are a few interfaces with a few classes or whatever. But you define with interface, no implementation there. It's just the contract of what your module is doing. So here you can see maybe this result thing is like, I like functional programming, and instead of using optional, that is not very good, I'm using this result that returns or the value or the failure of the process of getting more information than optional. And you can see this is the contract of my module. It's just an interface and some records. So there is no logic here. So it's very important that your domain interfaces are not the same as any other interface. For example, you can think in some repository interfaces of your CRUD application. Any interface that is external is not an interface. The domain that you define for your module is a domain that is not coupled with anything. It's just some contract, and that's all. There is no, for example, here, this car class is a car class that is in this domain. It's not the car class that will be in the car application domain. So we define clearly or classes that are totally new. We are not reusing any code or any library or anything. Yeah, and something that I recommend that you are, if you use external libraries or you are using, I don't know, an S3 client or anything that you use that is external, I recommend that you put a domain interface in front of that, because the implementation can change, but your contract will not change. And it's very easy to make the changes, and the changes in the libraries will not affect your code. So there is no coupling, all is new here. And this is the way we define the module. And the other modules that will use our module will only need this dependency. So when they want to use our module, they are only bringing this dependency, and they are not getting any detail about the implementation. They are not getting any library from the dependency that maybe can do something that they don't want. Also, something that I like with these domain interfaces is that you can define also the test of your domain interface. So you have your domain interface, and you can create a test that is validating that your interface do whatever they want to do before even that you have the implementation. So here you can take a look at how is going the application. So we have the car app folder, which contains the car application, and we have created this estimator folder that now contains a module that is the API, and inside there are only these 3 classes, nothing else. So as I have told, this is the public entry point for your module. If anyone wants to use, just use this, and they are not bringing anything. So this is a Maven modular application. It's nothing, it's not Gradle or anything, but it's Maven. Okay, so as I have told, it's very interesting that you create this type of test. So it's like a TCK. If you know TCK, the Technical Compatibility Kit, so when you define an interface and there will be different implementations, like for example in Java there are different implementation of contracts of the Java EE or whatever, they define what the implementation should do and should pass the test. So here you can see I am creating this test that is validating that the estimation is something that you get the value of the car. If the car has more kilometers, the value is less. If the brand is not good, they will get less value in the car. So the different options that with your contract, the car value estimator, you can have. So here I have not created any implementation or anything. It's just I am saying this is what our module should complain. So yeah. So now we are going to create the implementation of the interface. So there will be a new module, and there we will have some estimator implementation that implements the car value estimator. So here there will be the code that implements the contract. And also here you can see that I have created a test that is extending the estimator test, that is the domain interface test. And that's all. I need to, there is an abstract method at the end, and I need to implement that abstract method. So it's how I do create this estimator implementation. Here is pretty easy. So with that, I am running the test, and I know that my implementation is right. The tests are green, so my implementation is done. So you can see how the application has evolved. We have a new module, a new Maven module that is MPL, and inside you can see we have the implementation and the test, nothing else. I hope that your modules will have a lot of more classes there, because your implementation will not be as easy as this. If your implementation needs a specific test, you can add that test. It's fine. And also what I recommend is that if you are using something external, I hope that you will have a domain interface for that, and you always mock that external dependency. So here, what you want to test is you want to test your implementation. You want to test if you go to an external library to get data from database, or go to S3 to get something, or whatever. You are going to mock that because here you don't want to test that. You want to test that your implementation do whatever has to do. And also recommend that you use always a standard Java thing as Jakarta or microprofile. So here I hope that you don't couple with some frame or whatever. Just try to put the standards here. Yeah. So yeah, we had the interface, we have the implementation. So now our module is ready to be used. So now we are going to the car application, and we are going to add this module. So we need to do is just add the dependency of the implementation. We are adding the implementation and not the API, because the car application is a runtime application. So you need to specify what is the implementation that you need to use. Here is, in case that you have a module and you want to use the car value estimator there, you only need to add the dependency to the API, not the implementation. And yeah, here you can see that something that I have done is I created this. I use the application scope Jakarta dependency injection to inject that estimator implementation. So now we have added to the car application the new module, and now here is the code that is using all that. So there is nothing interesting here. As you see, I like functional programming. But no, so we have the interface implementation, and now all is ready. I am using that interface in my application. So now is time of microservice. So if you have your application running and it's working and there is no issues, I don't recommend you create the microservice of the car value estimator. If there is a reason for do that, anytime that you have a module and there is a reason to put that module or a group of modules in a new microservices, you should have a reason for that. Not just because people say, okay, we need to use microservices. No. If there is a reason, for example, if the car value estimator takes a lot of time and take a lot of resources because it's very slow, maybe it's a good time to move that estimator to a microservice. If not, it's fine that is in our application because there are no issues there. So don't introduce the complexity unless they are needed. So yeah, something that we are going to do, I'm going to create the microservice, and we are going to use REST for that microservices. It's just a decision. You can use whatever you want. You want to use gRPC or events or whatever you want. Here we're going to use REST. And what I do is I create two modules. One is this module, the endpoints module, where I define the endpoints of my microservices. So it's only Jakarta dependencies. Here I am not using any framework or anything. It's just I define in a standard Java way what are the endpoints of my application. And what I am using here is the car value estimator, the API. I am not using the implementation. So yeah, there is nothing interesting here. Something that maybe you want to test is what happens if our car value estimator gives us an error and return some type of number of error, 400 or 400 whatever, so to give more information to our users. So now we have added a new module. We had API implementation, and now we have endpoints module, and inside you have the endpoint, and also I have created a test. For this test, I use Jersey test, but you can use whatever you want. Jersey test is an implementation of the Java EE specification that you can use in your test. It's very easy to use. So in that test, I am not testing too much. It's just checking maybe if there is an error, of if I call the endpoint is calling the contract of my API. That's all. Even I am mocking there. I am not using an implementation. I'm just checking whatever is related to an endpoint. What is the status of the result? What are the values that I are sending? And that's all. All this model is something that is easy to automate. So something that I have pending is create all these classes with some tooling, and I don't have to do anything because always are the same. You have the endpoints are calling our API and is return something. But still, I don't have that. And also, I recommend a lot that you use OpenAPI. So you have your endpoints, and you define a new contract of how the endpoints are working, and people can create clients for that if they want. So we have the endpoints, and now we are going to create a client. So we have the endpoints, and we need a way to connect to our HTTP, to our service, to the REST endpoints. So for that, here you can see that I have, here I am implementing car value estimator. So here you see that I had the API, there was an implementation in MPL, and now here we have a new implementation, that is the implementation of the client. So you can connect to your module or directly or using an HTTP call. Here I am using a REST client that is a microprofile feature, and you can see it's pretty easy. Just call the client and using it. So now our modules has grown. We have this new module, HTTP client. So if you don't want to use HTTP, you want to use another thing, you can create the module for that. It's totally fine. Just you create the microservice how you want and create a client that is implementing the API and is calling your microservice. So yeah. So now we have 4 modules. We have the API, the implementation, the endpoints, and the HTTP client. And now we are going to create the microservice itself. So the microservice, in this case, we package in with a Quarkus application. So you can see that there are no source classes. There is nothing here, only we have dependencies. We can choose what we deploy with this microservice. In this case, in that dependency, there are Quarkus dependencies, there are the dependency to our endpoints, and there is the dependency to the implementation. So when the microservice is up, it will offer the endpoints, and if you call the endpoints, it will call the implementation to do whatever is needed and will give you. So maybe you see here is a few modules, maybe for you it's too complex, but it's something that we will see that it has some value. So here you see there are 2 tests. We are going to take a look. The first one is a normal Quarkus test. So we are testing that our endpoint is doing whatever it does. So you send the data, okay, give me the value of this Volkswagen thing with these kilometers, this year, and you see more or less the result is what you expect. But more important is this Quarkus integration test. So what we are here doing, we are extending the estimator test. So we don't have to create any new tests. We are just extending this estimator test, and the car value estimator is the HTTP client. So in this package application, I have added the HTTP dependency for test. And what this test does is it creates, well, I have set up that it creates the image of my microservice and connecting with the HTTP client. To that, I am doing the calls, and I am validating here that all the domain things that I have defined are good and are green. So with these lines of code, I am testing that the microservice is working and the microservice accomplishes the contract that I have defined. I don't have to create new tests here to validate anything. Just with the test that I had before, it's pretty easy, and you see if your HTTP client and your microservice is working. So I hope you see the value here. Okay, so now we have created the microservice. Something that is important when you develop these modules is that you provide developing and testing facilities, because you create a module that maybe your module has many dependencies. Maybe you are going to database, or you are going to S3, or different things that your module can do. So when other people is using your module for developing mainly, or for testing, it's very nice that you provide them some tooling so they can just add some Docker image using test container or whatever, so they can easily test their modules using your module if they want to. So now we have all, and we are going to change the car application that instead of using the implementation is going to use the microservice that we have created, this car value estimator service. So the only thing that you need to do is change your dependencies, nothing else. You go to the car application and you say, please, instead of do the implementation, call the microservice that someone or you have deployed in whatever. So you need to provide what is the URL of your service and change the dependency. That's all. So this is the value that we have, some of the values that we have got with these modules things. It's just changing your dependencies. You are telling, or you are choosing if you are going to use the microservice or not. So microservice is something that you say at dependency level. You don't need to do nothing specific, just change the dependency, and that's all. So it's very convenient. So other things that we have got with all this is that if you build all your modules this way, you can choose how do you deploy, how do you test, how do you debug all these modules together. You can choose whatever you want. You can build your monolith with all the modules inside, even with no endpoints. Just you can test that the logic of your application is doing what you want to do. It's very important because some of the complexities of the microservices is that you need to wake up different Docker things or do any complex thing that sometimes makes sense because maybe there is an error in production and you need to more or less check that the connection are right. But the majority of the problems are the logic, not the connection between. So with this, as I said, it's very easy. You can debug all your application in your IDE. Something that I love from the past is that in the past we had big application, big monolith application, and you can easily debug and see where the things are going. So with this approach and this module, you can do that in the same way. You remove the complexity of microservices and connection and the cloud, and you focus on whatever you want. If you want to test really the microservices, you can do. You can use the tooling for that, but it's a choice for you. You are not going to make your life harder because you want to, or someone tells you, okay, I want microservices. No, do this way, do modular way, and if you want to change to microservices, it's just a choice that you can do, and it's as easy as that. So, okay, I'm going to give more information about how we have implemented this and some feedback that I can give you if you want to do this. So does it fit to all use cases? No, as I have said, I am getting old, and I usually refuse to introduce new things. So think about it, create your POC, see the value, see if you see a value and create all these modules and this way. I think that is nice and very interesting, and you get a very good value. But it's up to you, up to your team. Do a POC and check if it's good for you. Something that we have seen is very interesting is that we are in a multi-cloud environment. There are different implementation of things if you're using one cloud provider or another. So this fits very well because you create your domain interface test and you can have different implementation, one for each. And you don't have to write any new test for that. Just create the implementation, and that's the thing. Also, this approach is very good if all your application is in the JVM, because you are creating contracts, you are creating implementation, but if you are using multiple languages for each module, maybe it does not make sense, because you are creating this complexity of modules for just one Quarkus application or one microservice. So if you see a value, you see you have a lot of modules in your application, and that's fit much better than just for one microservice or two or whatever. Some tips also that I can give to you is, the first one is, something that can happen is that in your package application, you can have multiple implementation, because it can happen. You can have the implementation, and you can have the HTTP client that is also an implementation. So try to not create complex dependency injection setup. So just add the dependencies, and if your package needs something, you create in that package. How do you choose what is the implementation that you want to use? Don't annotate the classes with primary or anything. No, make your classes simple. Just choose whenever you add the dependency, you choose there how the dependency you want to use. I also recommend that you use OpenAPI. It's a very nice way, and there are many tooling around OpenAPI to create a lot of things. Something that maybe can happen if you go this way is that you start to create a lot of modules. So try to keep the calm and create only modules that give you to use some value. You see that your modules are not too much, are just like, for example, you concentrate all about something in some module. Don't just each time that you create an implementation, you create new module. Just only what needed. It's something that happens to me, because I am very happy with creating modules, but sometimes, okay, I have created too much. Also, create your own conventions. This API implementation, HTTP client, or all the classes inside, define with your team what is the name that you prefer. Because, for example, API sometimes I don't like, or whatever. Just think about it and think, how do you put the standards there? Something important is that, okay, this is nice, you are developing, you are creating your modules, you are creating the implementation, but at some point, you have the version 1, you are more or less confident with the contract of your API. So something that maybe you want to do, is something that you have to think about, is in the endpoints module, create DTOs. So what we have seen is that I had this car class. This car class was in the API, but I was using that car class in the endpoint. So if you change the contract in the API, you are also going to change the contract of your endpoints. And maybe something that you don't want. Maybe you have your endpoints having a contract that you want to change whenever you want to change. For example, if you are creating clients for JavaScript, they are using the OpenAPI, and if you change that contract, they are fucked totally. So think about it. So it's a good time when you are more or less okay. Maybe create these DTOs. So you will have like two contracts. One is the contract of the endpoints, and one is the contract for the Java part. You will have to do some conversion there, and maybe can be not good. Just think about it. Think who is using your endpoints, and if they are going to be fucked or not if you change your endpoints. Something important is, because I see there is a lot of focus on using test containers or things like that, that you more or less create the infrastructure or the Kubernetes thing for testing all your thing. And yeah, it's fine that you have that, but the only thing that will be confident that your application is working is production or staging or whatever. Just don't try to focus too much and create a complex structure or run some Docker commands to have some all up, and you are replicating what production or staging is doing, and it's not the same. So you will not get too much value there. I recommend that you test in production, you create your end-to-end test, and not focus too much in make the thing working locally or in a mini cube or things like that. Something that I have pending, and maybe you can do, is instead of each time that your module is going to be a microservice, you have to create these endpoints, you have to create this HTTP client, and it's very mechanical thing. So maybe you want to automate that way, that action. So I have not done anything there, but for you maybe it's very easy that you have your module, you have your contract, and you want to create these classes that are always the same. And you don't have to type that. And if you make a change, you have to do changes. So it's nice if you have this type of tooling. And also something very important is that you need to think about what happens when you change something in the contract of your API. Because the rest of the modules are using your API, and if you make a change, they will fail at compile time. So think about it, whatever, or you have version of your modules, or maybe you make the change and you fix all when you do a change, whatever. Just think about it. Think about what happened if you change the API and you're not changing the contract of the endpoints, or vice versa. So the different things that can happen with change something, you think about it. There are books about how to manage that thing. This talk is not about that. Just think and have a proposal for that. So what are the benefits of all this that I have shown to you, this old module? So it's very easy to develop, debug, and test, and it's very fast. Something that will happen if you go microservices only is that for running a test, you have to wake up some Quarkus, Spring, or whatever application, run the test, and it's taking time to do that thing. With this, it's very easy. You can validate whatever you want. If you want to validate that your domain and your implementation is working, you don't need a Quarkus application for that. It's a very fast test that is running there. If you want to test that your endpoints are working, then you will need some or Jersey test or any Quark or any application or whatever, but it's for your endpoints. So you separate what is the logic of your application and what is the way you use your module, if it's direct or HTTP. There is no coupling. Well, there is coupling. You have coupling at runtime time, because when your application is running, you are choosing what is the application the implementation that you are using. But you have to. So I think this is the only coupling that you have. Also, something that you have is a very good separation of the logic of your modular application. So you choose how you deploy, you package your modules, a few modules in a service, or all the modules in a monolithic application, whatever you want. But you have very good separation where are the logic of your modules and where is not. In your package, there is no logic there. And it's very easy to change. If you want to change from Quarkus to Spring, or from Spring to Micronaut, or whatever, it's very easy. So you just create that Spring application, add the dependencies there. Done. You don't have to do anything. Well, maybe in Spring you have to do some annotation to get that bings from there. Well, each framework works different ways to add that dependencies. And also, yeah, there are multiple ways you have your application and you deploy in different ways. Even you can create a Lambda, because, yeah, you can create this Quarkus application, and you add a dependency, and you can say to Quarkus to create a Lambda from that. And we have that, for example. We have different packaging. We package as a module, as a microservice, or we package as a Lambda. It's pretty easy. Some drawbacks of all these, well, I think there are more, but I try to get something. So the more drawback is that you are creating more code. So the easy thing is create a Spring Boot application you have there, and inside you put all the logic of your application, run it, you have only one module, and all is there. It's totally fine, but if you do that, you are coupled to Spring. That's all. If you want to get the logic to, or move the logic to another place, it's not as easy as my approach. But if you are going to create a very small application, very small microservice, you don't need to create all this. Just put the code there, and it's fine. So you don't need, you choose whatever approach you want. And also something that can happen is something that I have commented is that you can have the car class in the car application. You can have the car in your module. You can have the car in the endpoints are different classes, and you have to do some conversion there. That can be tricky, but it's a problem that you can have. So think about that. But it's something that you will have anyway. So yeah, I think that's all with drawbacks. So I will do some summary of all of this. So if you have something from this talk, I hope that you have these domain interfaces. So is the best way that you define your contract and you say how your module is working, what your module does. Just create that domain interface. There is no coupling there. It's nice. Also, I have told debug your whole application is something that you cannot have better experience with any microservice. Microservice is only complexity and only do when you need. But if you want to debug all your application, you can do it this way. So reduce coupling is the main target of all this separation. The problems that we have seen in Magnolia with this way of working are solved. So yeah, move the cloud away, only use cloud when you have to. You don't have to test your logic in the cloud if you don't want to. Yeah, also I recommend that make the life of your teams better, create the tooling for them. If they want to use your modules, provide them the tooling for that. Also, don't trust me. So try it, create your POC, check if that is working for you. If not, it's fine. It's something that for us is working. That domain interface test or TCK or whatever are very nice. It's something, apart from the domain interface, this is the second thing. It's very good because if you write first the test of your module and you are using the interface and you see that you cannot test your module by itself because you need something, then there is a bad smell there. So you will see what your module needs to work, and you can have that in the interface. And if you need something, there is a bad smell, your module is not good enough, you have to rethink how you separate your modules. And finally, please create the module first, and later, if it's needed, or there is a reason for that, create your microservices. And only you need to change the dependency from that to that. It's pretty easy, pretty convenient, and yeah, I hope that all of you think that modules are the best way and is the first way to go. So yeah, there is the link to the repository. You can go there. You can check. I have created different commits with different steps, more or less. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Sasa, for reviewing my slides. I hope that you get good information from that slides. And yeah, I think it's time for a Slido. Okay. Room 9. Okay. How many modules do you have in production? We tried a similar approach. We have 130 modules, and we've okay, so no, we don't have that many amount. We have like modules, we have like 7, 8, or 10, something like that. And at the moment, it's going well. So please come to me and say, why do you fail? Because maybe we can try to fix that. Yeah, thank you for your feedback. So it's only 10 or 12, and we have 5 or 6 services. So we have started this SaaS POC, and we have a ball, and we have 5, 6 services and 10, 12 modules, something like that. This approach requires a lot of discipline from the team. How do you enforce it? Yeah, agree totally. So you have to spend a lot of time explaining the teams, what do you try to get, why and how, and yeah, it's a very good question there. Yeah, it's not easy. Even after I review the code, I see that people maybe add implementation code in the endpoints. So the thing is that you have to show them what are the benefits. The benefit of you don't have to take care about, for example, Docker or Docker Compose or anything. You can have a module with all your application and debug there. And if you show them there, they will be happy because they will have the same experience that we had before, this cloud and this microservices thing. You can debug all together, you can test all together. So it's when I will have the focus. You demonstrate the value of multi-module project, but what is the relationship to using or not using microservices? Well, good question. With using microservices, so the decision of using or not using microservices, yeah, is maybe not related to that, but is something that the approach that I have shown facilitates you the way of doing. So if you want to go microservices with this approach, is very easy. If not, if you build a modular application or in a way that is hard to create the microservices from them, then you will fail. This is an approach that facilitates you the life of Go to microservices. But as I have said, I'm not a fan of microservices, so I prefer not to go. So it's up and only when needed. Very good question. Did you consider using OpenAPI specification and tools like OpenAPI generators? Yes, good question there also. Some of the guys in our team, instead of creating the thing that we have done, they are creating the clients from the OpenAPI specification. And it's good, but the problem is that this client is not implementing the API. So when you are using this client, you are adding dependencies of HTTP to your module. So you have a module, you use this client, and you are adding a dependency that is an HTTP. So you are creating a coupling there between how your model is working and the final implementation of the microservice. So it's a dependency that you are bringing that is not good. So I prefer to have this separation. It's fine, some teams think, but then you are breaking, because when you are going to use the modules, you have to use this HTTP client. So it's not good. Maybe some mixed approach about, okay, I generate the client, but I create the implementation of the interface using that client. But yeah, it's the same. Yeah, good question there, nice. This all means you need quite a strong unification in company. Do you have some real life example where this is working? Yeah, totally agree. It's not easy. So we were a team of 4 people. We did it. And when we start to talk the rest of the teams of doing that, there was some friction, some problems, some things. So yeah, a lot of discipline is needed. As I said before, just show to them what are the value that you are getting. The value of the domain interface test, the value of debug your whole application. Because I don't know for you guys, when you have microservices, test your application and debug it is a fucking pain. You have to, okay, there is a change in that service, I have to wake up some services. Oh no, I forgot some database thing. With this approach, the life for the developers will be easier. They have to write a bit more of code, but the life is a lot easier. Do you have a sample GitHub repository? Yes, the link is there. So, okay, I will, where is my mouse? I totally lost. Okay, now. Yeah, the link is there. You can take a picture. Okay. The estimator already implements adjust a regex endpoint. What value does a dynamic microservice endpoint? Okay, so we had the estimator API, we had the estimator implementation, and the estimator endpoints. And then I was using Jakarta Regex. So for the endpoints, I'm using the standards. So the value there is that I am not coupling to any framework or any library. I am just saying that these are my endpoints in a Java standard way. I am not using Micronode or Quarkus or whatever. So this is the value that you can put that endpoints in any framework. Have you tried to carve out apart to separate module this way and or do you personally use it only for adding new things? Okay, this complex thing. Or do you personally use it only for? Well, we have, for example, we have different modules at the beginning, like the content module. We have some delivery module. We have some config module or some. So not always when you add a new feature, you have to create a module. Only you have to create a module when you see the value there. You don't have to create. In this case, for the demo, I have created this module to see the value that we get. But OK, it's done. So I hope you have seen the value. If you want to meet me, please, I will be here until, I don't know, until lunch. I have to take the flight. And you can ping me, we can talk, whatever you want. So yeah, thank you very much. I hope you get the value there. I hope the effort of coming here make your mind better and you have a different view of microservices. So thank you very much to all.